My roommate was cheap. Like next level cheap. During freshman orientation drills, my friend and I ordered iced drinks, but she threw our delivery order in the trash. You two are so wasteful. What do you think you're drinking? You're drinking your parents' blood. Later, she deliberately broke the AC remote, forcing the whole room to suffer in 102-degree heat and break out in heat rashes. When I used my phone to turn on the AC, she found out my monthly allowance was $2,000. She completely lost it, pointing at me and screaming, "My parents don't even make $10,000 a year. What gives you the right to spend $2,000 a month? You're a parasite. All you know how to do is order delivery and waste your parents' hard-earned money. From now on, you give me your money to manage. I'll give you $2 a day for expenses." Hearing that, I immediately cut off the financial support I was giving her. She loves being frugal so much? Fine. She can go back to her frugal life. The September sun burned like a ball of fire. After standing at attention all morning, my throat felt like it was smoking. The moment we were dismissed, my roommate Mia spammed the dorm group chat with crying emojis. She texted, "I'm dead tired." A second later, our other roommate Grace, who was resting in the dorm because of her period, sent a message. "Mia Chloe, I grabbed your boba teas for you. We didn't have to go all the way to the delivery pickup station under the blazing sun." For us, exhausted and overheated, that news was better than winning the lottery. I instantly perked up. Forgetting to stretch my legs and back, I grabbed Mia and we bolted for the dorm. But as we pushed open the door, dreaming of our ice-cold boba, we saw a dark, skinny girl pouring our frosty drinks into the trash can. My eyes went wide when I saw the labels on the cups. I instinctively yelled out, "Who the hell are you? I ordered those drinks. What gives you the right to pour them out? Where's Grace?" As I spoke, I stumbled forward, trying to snatch the drinks back. But it was too late. The second she saw me move, she tossed the entire cup into the trash can. Watching the boba splash everywhere, my anticipation turned into an icy wave of shock that washed over me. Who was this girl? Why did she pour out my boba? Mia stared at the ice cubes and toppings floating in the trash, her expression so pained it was like someone had carved a piece of her flesh out. She trembled for a long moment before pointing at the girl, her voice a hoarse, tearful cry. "You barge into our room and pour out our drinks? Are you insane?" Mia and I were furious, determined to get an explanation from her. But the girl was completely unfazed. She spoke calmly. "Hi, I'm Diane. My train was delayed." Diane? The name sounded familiar. Before I could place it, she spoke again. "You two are so wasteful. What do you think you're drinking? You're drinking your parents' blood. Think about your parents. They work so hard to earn money. Do they ever drink boba tea like this?" Actually, my parents don't drink boba. In my mom's words, "That stuff spikes your blood sugar. It's the enemy of your figure and your health." Then, Diane clasped her hands behind her back and started her lecture. "The school organizes these orientation drills to build our physique and strengthen our willpower. How can you sneak back to the dorm to drink boba during the lunch break? Where I'm from, we have to walk over 10 miles under the hot sun just to get drinking water. We work in the fields all day in the summer heat. If everyone was like you, how would people there survive? Why are you so coddled? You have no idea how hard it is to earn money." Mia's face darkened as she shot me a look that screamed, "She's crazy." Honestly, I thought so too. Sure, compared to people who still struggle just to get by, our orientation drills were nothing. But we all come from different circumstances. Why should we all have to approach life with the exact same attitude? My mom always taught me, money should be planned for and spent reasonably and legally. It's scorching hot, and ordering an iced boba tea makes me spoiled and weak-willed? Before I could say anything, Mia beside me had already unleashed a tirade. "So, you're saying that after all the progress this country has made, we're supposed to throw it all away and go back to the Stone Age with your village? If that's the case, what's the point of all this hard work and struggle? You're so against progress. Are you some kind of foreign spy? I'm going to report you." "You." Diane was speechless. Mia pulled up a QR code on her phone and held it in front of her. 3 boba teas, that's 18. Venmo me." I went to find the AC remote, hoping to cool down the sauna like dorm room. But just as I reached for it, Diane snatched it away. You weren't here earlier, but Grace, who went to get water, can confirm it. The RA has already appointed me as the dorm leader. From now on, I'm in charge here. All of you have to listen to me, and that includes the use of all appliances like lights and the air conditioner. It's only 102 degrees today. That's not hot at all. We don't need to turn on the AC. I was floored. A wave of anger shot up from my feet to the top of my head. Just as I was about to confront her, Grace walked in, shakily carrying a basin of water. There's a bathroom in our suite. Why are you getting water from outside? Grace glanced nervously at Diane and mumbled. The dorm leader said our utilities are metered and we have to pay for them. Getting water from the hallway tap won't run up our room's water bill. Grace was a rule follower, but I never thought she was this much of a pushover. She not only agreed to such an unreasonable request, she actually did it. My anger flared even hotter. Seeing she had a living example in Grace, Diane cleared her throat and announced solemnly, for the sake of frugality, from now on, all washing, showering, laundry, and even using the toilet must be done in the public restroom in the hallway. I know you're all upset, but this is to train you to live a simpler life. I'm sure that in a month, you'll all thank me, because I'll have saved you a ton of money. Out of human decency, I let Grace fetch this basin of water. Grace, use this mop to splash the water on the floor to cool the room down. She handed Grace a filthy mop she'd found somewhere. Grace instinctively reached for it, but I stopped her. Diane, you have your own philosophy on life, and we respect that. But not everyone is born to suffer. The school provides these amenities in the dorm to make our lives more convenient and our living experience better, not for us to create hardships for ourselves just to be frugal. Besides, being dorm leader isn't being a dictator. You have no right to order us to do anything. With that, I reached for the AC remote she had placed on her bed. I thought that after my little speech, Diane might back down, but I had seriously underestimated her fanaticism. Crack. The AC remote shattered into pieces with a sharp snap. 2 batteries flew out and rolled to a stop at Diane's feet. This time, even the quiet and timid Grace couldn't hold back. Why did you deliberately destroy school property? As the 3 of us stared in shock, she launched into her next bizarre move, opening the balcony door and the dorm room door. A wave of hot air flooded the room, with no sign of it flowing back out. I glanced in a nearby mirror and saw that my and Mia's faces, already pale from the sun, had turned another shade whiter. Well, the remote's broken now, so we can't turn on the AC, Diane said triumphantly. Like I said, mop the floor, and with the air flowing between the balcony and the door, the room will cool down. That's how we do it back home. Besides, I'm doing this for your own good. Blasting the AC right after you've been training could trap the heat in your pores and cause a stroke or facial paralysis. Now that you can't turn it on, not only are we saving electricity, but we're also building your tolerance for hardship. You should be thanking me. Her twisted logic made my head spin. I kept wondering what I'd done to deserve being stuck with such a freak for a roommate. But Mia isn't one to bottle things up. Her voice still raspy, she let loose again. You're the one who's going to get facial paralysis. Your whole family is. What the hell is wrong with you? If you're sick, go get help. Don't just spew garbage everywhere. I wasn't even serious about the 18 before, but now you owe me every single cent. And the remote too. Either you buy a new one yourself or you give the money to the dorm supervisor. Don't expect us to pay for what you did. Mia's voice was hoarse, but she was loud. With the dorm room door wide open, a lot of students passing by stopped to watch. Seeing the growing crowd of onlookers, Diane's eyes turned red. I'm not like you all, from well-off families. A few dollars for electricity or a $7 or $8 boba tea might be nothing to you. But to me, every penny is a fortune. I know the 3 of you look down on me. You think I'm poor and don't deserve to be your roommate. But you can't humiliate me in public. We poor people have dignity too. That set me off. What did she mean? I'm not like you all from well-off families. Since when was it a crime for my parents to have money? This wasn't about being frugal anymore. This was classic resentment of the rich. She was the one who deliberately destroyed the boba and the remote. Mia was just stating the facts. How was that humiliating her? Wasn't she the one who had been stirring up trouble this whole time? I didn't want to argue with her, but with so many prying eyes behind me, I had to speak up. This isn't about being poor. It's about being reasonable. Mia shouldn't have cursed, that's true. But you were the one making unreasonable demands first. You deliberately destroyed our drinks and the dorm's remote. You absolutely should pay for them. After speaking, I closed the dorm and balcony doors. I took out my phone, opened the universal remote app, and turned on the air conditioner. Thank God my parents got me a new phone before school started, or we really would have been stuck sweating and getting heat rash today. The room instantly cooled down. Mia and Grace finally let out a sigh of relief. But Diane just scoffed. You're the ones who wanted the AC on, not me. I'm not splitting the electricity bill. She was poor so fine. We wouldn't make her chip in. Mia, Grace, and I all shared a silent understanding. Covered in sweat from the morning's drills, Mia and I had no intention of climbing into our beds. We just planned to rest our heads on our desks for a bit. But as I opened my messenger app to text my mom about the morning, Diane glanced over and saw my screen. My mom had just sent over my allowance, and I hadn't accepted it yet. $2,000. In that second, her expression shifted from disbelief to pure rage. My parents don't even make $10,000 a year. What gives you the right to spend $2,000 a month? I stared at her like she was an idiot for a full 30 seconds. A certain commercial slogan looping in my head. Are you okay? Finally, I came to a conclusion. This person was completely irrational. Not wanting to waste my breath on her, I picked up a bottle of water from my desk, took a few sips, and prepared to close my eyes and rest. But Diane completely snapped. She violently snatched the water bottle out of my hand, her fingernails caked with dirt jabbing toward my face. Chloe, compared to me, you're nothing but a leech. Ordering delivery, drinking bottled water, wasting your parents' hard-earned money. From now on, you give me your money to manage. I'll give you $2 a day for expenses. Hearing her say my name, a jolt of familiarity shot through my mind like lightning. I finally remembered why the name Diane sounded so familiar. She was the student I had started sponsoring through a school partnership program back in my freshman year of high school, Diane. We had been corresponding by mail for a while. In the second half of senior year, because of college prep, I sent her a year's worth of living expenses and tuition all at once. We agreed to both try to get into this university, and then we lost touch. I never thought she'd actually make it. But in her letters, she was always so inspiring and gentle. Even though she was a latchkey kid who was often beaten and berated by her grandmother, she never complained about her life. Instead, she was resilient and brave, always at the top of her class. How could that person be this fanatic? I looked at her and asked tentatively, "So you've known who I was this whole time?" Diane's eyes burned with fury as she stared at me. "It's because I know who you are that I was even angrier when I saw you ordering boba. You said in your letters that you were careful with your money and wouldn't be wasteful, so why are you still ordering boba? And this bottled water. It's $2 a bottle. Do you know that's my entire day's food budget back home? You have so much money, you should be helping people in need. Why are you wasting it?" The more Diane spoke, the more incensed she became. She looked at me not like a benefactor, but like a mortal enemy. And I finally believed the old saying. The internet is full of risks, meet in person with caution. Letters really don't show you much about a person's character. Beneath her inspiring, resilient exterior was a controlling, paranoid core. Diane was oblivious to my now cold expression. She pulled out her phone and showed me her QR code. "Transfer all your money to me now. I'll manage it for you. That's the only way to repay your parents for all their hard work." I laughed coldly. My parents don't need you to be their spokesperson. And since when did having money become an excuse for you to guilt trip me? Because I have money, I'm obligated to help others? By that logic, poor people used to eat tree bark to survive. You claim to be so poor, why aren't you eating it? After saying my piece, I pushed her back half a step and yanked my bed curtain shut. I thought I'd finally have some peace. The next second, Diane ripped the curtain open again. "Chloe, What gives you the right to push me? Just because you sponsor me, just because I'm poor, you think you can just insult me whenever you want? I was utterly speechless. I've met people who have had it harder and were poorer than her. None of them were as paranoid and unhinged as she was. She used her own suffering as capital to guilt-trip others. It wasn't enough to force everyone to suffer with her. She demanded they do things her way, and was constantly eyeing their money. What kind of psychology and logic was that? A person like this shouldn't be sponsored. I secretly made my decision. Across from me, Diane had bitten her lip until it was white. You can use your status as my sponsor to crush me, fine. But you remember this. The tables will turn. I won't be poor forever. When I have money, I'll do everything in my power to. Stop. Mia from the next bunk cut her off. She once again held up her phone with the QR code. If you're so ambitious, then please pay me the 18 first. Otherwise, I'm calling the RA right now and telling her you deliberately broke our stuff and won't pay for it. Mia delivered the line with the force of someone demanding 180,000, not 18. It was obvious that Mia, who hadn't really intended to make Diane pay, had lost her patience after hearing the audacious, "I'll manage your money for you" speech. You're all so rich, why are you making me pay for a measly 18? Was I wrong to try and help you save money? With that, she wiped away a tear and ran out of the room. But as she burst through the door, she ran right into the dorm supervisor and a female orientation instructor who were doing room checks. What's going on? Orientation is exhausting enough. You should be resting during your lunch break. Why are you all fighting? My only intention, really, was to help them understand and learn from the spirit of hard work and perseverance of our predecessors, which is the whole point of our orientation. But in the end, it was my fault for not thinking it through and wasting Chloe and Mia's money. I'll transfer the money to them in a bit. It just means I won't eat for 2 days, but I'm used to it. Back home, I often just drank tap water to fill my stomach. After Diane's little speech, Mia and I suddenly looked like the unreasonable ones. It's just a few bucks. Try to be understanding. It's not easy for Diane either, the dorm supervisor said. You'll all be living together for the next 4 years. Let's just call this a misunderstanding and get some rest. When the dorm supervisor heard Diane talk about drinking tap water to survive, her sympathetic look was obvious. Her intention to just smooth things over was even more obvious. But Mia and I weren't stupid. It wasn't our fault that Diane drank tap water to survive. Why should we have to be understanding about it? When she was pouring out our drinks, did she spare a thought for how miserable we were after baking in the sun? Besides, for the last 3 years of high school, the allowance I sent her was based on the highest standard of living in our city. It was more than enough for her and her grandmother, and even if you added her parents, it wouldn't have driven her to the point of drinking water to survive. I ignored the dorm supervisor and walked straight up to Diane. Fine. You want to pay? Pay up now. Venmo or cash. Diane froze. She never expected that after her whole sob story, she would still have to pay. I looked at her and smirked. You want to play the part of the strong, resilient victim? I'll help you. I've never cared about my reputation anyway. So what if people whisper behind my back for 4 years that I'm cheap? Diane's eyes, which had just stopped tearing up, reddened again. But Mia looked at the adults standing on either side of her and shook her head slightly, reminding her that the dorm supervisor and instructor were still there. Her act couldn't fall apart now. Finally, Diane took out her phone and sent Mia the 18. I recognized the phone at a glance. It was the iPhone 15 I had sent her along with her last allowance payment. It's bad form to ask for a gift back. But I had no intention of letting the matter end there. Since you've realized you were wrong, just paying for it isn't enough. You also need to apologize to the 3 of us. Diane's face went completely dark. She clutched the hem of her shirt as if she had been deeply insulted. When she said, "I'm sorry," her voice was trembling. After she apologized, the tears finally fell. Anyone looking at her would have seen a pitiful, innocent little flower. But Mia wasn't buying it. She handed the remains of the AC remote to the dorm supervisor. Diane's expression changed. She reached out to stop her, but I was faster. Ma'am, the 3 of us in this room, including myself, can all testify that Diane deliberately broke the AC remote. Now Diane was truly panicking. She blurted out, "So what if I did? You think the supervisor is as petty as you are? I had no choice. You people forced me to do it. If you hadn't insisted on turning on the AC, would I have broken the remote? Besides, you can clearly use your phone to turn it on. What difference does this remote make? Why do you have to make a big deal out of this too?" I scoffed. Why shouldn't we? The remote is school property. Deliberately destroying school property is wrong. It might not be worth much, but someone has to pay for it. If you don't, the dorm supervisor will have to take the blame for you. You don't actually think this is some kind of TV drama where you can play the victim, shed a few tears, and get a round of applause while everyone else cleans up your mess, do you? My words hit a nerve, and Diane's face flushed red. Her eyes darted back and forth between the dorm supervisor and me, finally settling on me. "Chloe, since you already think I'm that kind of person, there's nothing I can say to defend myself. After all, I accepted your sponsorship, so in your eyes, I'm beneath you. I accept that." After a whole afternoon of this drama, I was too tired to respond to her bizarre logic. Mia, even more impatient, cut her off directly. "So are you going to pay or not? If not, order a new remote right now. The dorm supervisor is a busy woman." Diane looked at the dorm supervisor with teary eyes. She just couldn't believe the supervisor would make a strong, poor student like her pay for the remote. And under her hopeful gaze, the dorm supervisor slowly opened her mouth. "The remote is $35. Pay up." Those 6 little words were like a cold, hard stone, and the color instantly drained from Diane's face. The tears welling in her eyes froze into tiny, unbelievable shards of ice. She tried to say something more, but the dorm supervisor held up a QR code, blocking her view. Looking at the supervisor's face, which had gone from concern to instantly calm and almost indifferent, I finally understood my mom's favorite saying. When it's their own skin in the game, people show their true colors. When it doesn't affect you, anyone can play the saint. But the moment your own interests are on the line, that little bit of sympathy vanishes. It was a classic move. After collecting the money, the dorm supervisor and the instructor left, and our lunch break ended with all that drama. In the afternoon, Diane officially joined the orientation drills. Just as she'd said, she could endure anything. After standing at attention for 2 hours, she actually asked the instructor for extra training. In her words, orientation should be like actual military training. Meanwhile, Mia and I, having missed our nap, had no energy at all. Our posture was limp and weak, and the instructor yelled at us several times. It wasn't just a stark contrast with Diane, it was what the instructor called a polarizing example. The instructor even had Diane give a speech on her experience with the drills right then and there. Under the instructor's admiring gaze, Diane gave a vivid account of her difficult journey to get an education and her inspiring ambition. At the most emotional parts, she even shed a few tears. By the end of the afternoon, she had become the class's inspirational model. She was even chosen by the instructor to be the class monitor. And Mia and I became the undisputed underachievers. Finally, it was time for dinner. Mia and I were just about to ask Grace to eat with us when we saw that Grace had added someone to our group chat, Diane. "Diane at Chloe, you still haven't given me your allowance to manage. Please do so as soon as possible." "Diane at Chloe, I gave you all my money. I have no money now. I'm waiting for you at the second dining hall. Come over and buy me a meal." "Diane at Chloe, you know what? Just transfer me the money now. I'll go eat by myself." Me. I rubbed my eyes 3 times and finally confirmed I wasn't seeing things. I had already texted my dad to stop sponsoring her. And now she wanted me to buy her dinner? I just sent a refuse sticker and then left the group chat. But I never would have imagined that the second I left, my phone would ring. It was Diane. "Chloe, what's the meaning of this? The moment I join the group, you, Mia, and Grace all leave? This is social exclusion. This is bullying. You're so rich, and you were already sponsoring me. Isn't it normal for you to buy me dinner? Why did you block me? I'm giving you one last chance to come back, or create a new group and add me. If you don't, I'm posting this all over the campus social page tomorrow." I didn't reply. I just blocked the number. Diane didn't have a phone. When I sent her the last sponsorship payment in senior year, I specifically included this phone. It was so we could easily stay in touch in college. But I never thought the first person I would block in college would be her. The friend I had idealized turned out to be a complete fanatic. It would be a lie to say I wasn't sad. But my mom always taught me, don't waste time on unimportant people and things. Now that I'd seen Diane's true colors, not having any contact with her anymore was actually a good thing. At least I'd save a few years of sponsorship money. Because of our poor performance during the day, Mia and I were called out for extra drills by the instructor after dinner. By the time we finished, it was already 8:30 p.m. As soon as we entered the dorm building, I felt strange looks from people passing by. A few even dodged us as if we were the plague. Hey, is that the bullying duo? But they look so nice. People who isolate their roommate on the first day just because she's outstanding and use sponsorship money to threaten her? You think they're nice? Better stay away from them. Mia and I followed the voices and saw a few pairs of eyes quickly look away. Before we even got to our room, we saw a crowd packed 3 layers deep around our door. Grace was on the outskirts, helplessly trying to explain something to them, only to be met with one eye roll after another. Diane stood in the middle, crying her eyes out, a pile of luggage scattered at her feet. Next to her was our RA. Seeing us walk in, Diane cried even more pitifully. Ms. Evans, I should just drop out. A school like this isn't a place for a poor person like me. It was my fault for not knowing my place. A few years of sponsorship made me forget who I am. I thought we were friends, but I never imagined that in her eyes, giving me charity was no different from tossing a bone to a stray dog. I'm such a pathetic mess, so it's only right that I'm being isolated. Please just let me drop out. I accept my fate. I'm willing to go back home and farm for the rest of my life. Before she could finish, our RA, who wasn't much older than us, glared at me. Chloe, is what Diane is saying true? You used your position as her sponsor to lead the whole room in isolating her? And you deliberately broke the AC remote and used the sponsorship money to threaten her into admitting it was her fault. Do you have any idea that Diane only has $70 to her name? Before her financial aid comes through, that sponsorship money is her last hope for surviving at school. How could you do this? And the worst part is she took the fall for you, paid the dorm supervisor for the remote, and you still had your dad cut off her sponsorship. You've gone too far. The RA got more and more agitated as she spoke, as if she had already decided I was the bully. The murmurs from the crowd grew louder, practically condemning me and Mia from head to toe. Amid the chorus of righteous indignation, I could hear Grace's helpless, weak voice. No, that's not what happened. Don't listen to her. She's the one who broke the remote. We left the group chat because her demands were too much. She demanded. Grace. Diane cut Grace off sharply and continued to cry. Do you have any proof? The chat history in my hand clearly shows that right after you added me to the group, all of you left, one by one. How do you explain that? Watching Diane, so utterly wronged yet so determined as she showed everyone her chat history, I had to laugh. So she wasn't just a fanatic. She was shameless. Mia had always had a fiery temper. She was about to charge forward, but I secretly held her back. So Diane, are you saying I'm bullying you with the sponsorship money because you did so well in the orientation drills today? Diane covered her face, weeping. What other reason could there be? I can't think of anything else. But the remote was broken at noon. You hadn't even participated in the drills, yet you hadn't even arrived at school. How could I have been jealous of you? Don't tell me you and I both have the ability to time travel and predicted how well you'd do this afternoon. As soon as I said that, a wave of realization rippled through the crowd. Yeah, I saw the dorm supervisor come over to their room at noon to deal with something. It seemed pretty intense then, too. I think I did hear the sound of a remote breaking. Seeing the tide of public opinion turning against her, Diane forgot to cry. She wiped her tears and once again shoved her phone screen in everyone's faces. But it's true that they all left the group after I joined. Isn't that isolation? I had no money for food, and as soon as I got to the dorm, I got a notification that my sponsorship was being cut off. The text message is right here. How can that be fake? There were no cameras in the dorm room. It was hard to say for sure who had broken the remote. But the chat history and the sponsorship termination notice she showed everyone were irrefutable proof. And just like that, public opinion swung back again. Mia, Grace, and I were once again nailed to the pillar of shame. Chloe, we've been friends for so long. I really want to keep being your friend. I even plan to get a part-time job after orientation is over. As long as you'll be my friend and don't isolate me, please? Of course, if you're not willing, I won't force you. Worst case, I'll just go back home. There's no place for me here anyway. So what's your goal here? My sudden interruption seemed to throw Diane off. She froze, not knowing how to react. I repeated myself. Do you want me to keep sponsoring you? Or do you want me to buy you dinner every day? Diane covered her face. From most people's perspective, it would look like she was crying from being wronged. But from my angle, I could see the corners of her mouth turning up under her fingers. She thought she had won, that she could get me to sponsor her again. But she never imagined that the moment she revealed her true objective, I would show them my phone's chat history too. And not just me, Mia showed hers as well. Diane at Chloe, you still haven't given me your allowance to manage. Please do so as soon as possible. Diane at Chloe, I gave you all my money. I have no money now. I'm waiting for you at the second dining hall. Come over and buy me a meal. Diane at Chloe, you know what, just transfer me the money now. I'll go eat by myself. Apparently, no one in Diane's social circle had ever talked to her about how messaging apps or phones work. She had no idea that even if we left the group, as long as we didn't delete the conversation, the chat history would still be there. It was obvious who was lying. The crowd immediately started to murmur and sigh, and whispers of poor and just causes trouble shot like sharp arrows toward Diane. Even the RA's face turned beet red after seeing our chat history. She gave Diane a disappointed look and then stormed off. Now, even if Diane was a complete Luddite, she understood. She had been played by her own ignorance, by the information gap. I looked at Diane, whose face had gone from ashen to deathly white. For the first time, I felt a petty but satisfying sense of victory. Using her status as a poor, inspiring student to frame her sponsor on the very first day of school, Diane became famous throughout our department, and even the whole college. Many of the students who had witnessed the drama that day went on the campus forums to complain. Gradually, Diane's reputation as the frame-up queen spread across the entire campus. She would be recognized just walking down the street. She tried to get a job at the campus food court, but no one would hire her. The reason was simple. Business owners were afraid of getting scammed, and we successfully drew a clear line between us and her. We lived under the same roof but didn't exchange a single word. We couldn't help it. None of us were saints. We couldn't just forgive someone who tried to frame us on the first day of school. Without my sponsorship, Diane's life became even more frugal. We could even see her eating the same piece of bread from one day to the next. I was actually curious. Technically, I had only stopped her sponsorship starting from next year. Before that, I had given her almost a year's worth of living expenses and tuition. Even if she had spent a lot on college prep during senior year, it shouldn't have left her in a state where she was eating bread and drinking tap water. But once bitten, twice shy. No matter how much I pitied her, I couldn't bring myself to sponsor her again. Later, after discussing it, Mia, Grace, and I decided not to make her split the utility bills. It was the last bit of mercy we could show her. I thought the four of us would continue in this mode for the next 4 years of college. But I never expected that in just 1 month, Diane would make a complete comeback. Somehow, she got her hands on some money and bought a batch of nail kits that looked surprisingly high quality and stylish. She also taught herself how to do nails by watching online tutorials. She set up a little nail salon right in our dorm room. Even though she had a bad reputation, her prices were cheap. Gradually, people actually started coming to her for manicures. To expand her empire, she bought a batch of trendy but affordable earrings that complemented the nail art and sold them together. Her prices were almost half of what you'd find online. Soon, the initial handful of customers turned into flocks. Before holidays, it got so popular that you had to book an appointment. Maybe it was because she had more money, But Diane's whole personality seemed to lighten up. She even started offering to split the utility bills. Mia, Grace, and I didn't say anything to her face, but privately we were thrilled. If having money could turn Diane back into a normal person, we were more than happy to accept her. After all, nobody wants to live under the same roof with someone and not speak. To bridge the gap, Mia and I agreed to let Diane test her new products on us, mainly to see how strong the nail glue was. I thought it was just a simple product test. I never, ever expected it. Less than half an hour after applying the nails, I was jolted awake from a deep sleep by a searing pain in my chest. The pain spread from my chest to my heart. It felt like my entire upper body was being crushed. I looked over at Mia on the opposite bunk. Her eyes were shut tight as she lay motionless on her bed, but all of her exposed skin was covered in a red rash. She had had an allergic reaction and passed out. Grace wasn't there. I begged Diane to call 911 for us, but she just brushed it off with a laugh. You guys are just too delicate. Allergies are no big deal. Where I'm from, you hardly ever hear of anyone having allergies. Besides, don't they have desensitization therapy now? I'm basically helping Mia get desensitized. I was too weak to argue. I could only call our RA. As I was being lifted onto the stretcher, I used the last of my strength to whisper 2 sentences into Grace's ear, as she had just rushed back. Then, clutching my chest, I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. N4 was stuck in my right hand, and an oxygen tube was clipped to my nose. My parents were on either side of me, their faces etched with worry. When she saw I was awake, my mom's eyes quickly turned red. Chloe, you're finally awake. You scared me to death. Honey, is the $2,000 a month not enough? Why would you go get cheap nail art done? Haven't I told you that those kinds of polishes are made from extremely low-quality materials? Were you trying to give me a heart attack? Nail polish? Low-quality materials? It was true. My suspicions before I passed out were correct. There was no way Diane would be so kind as to offer to split the utility bills. It was all a setup to use us as her personal guinea pigs. I took my mom's hand and managed a weak smile. It's okay. How's my roommate Mia? My mom stroked my forehead, her face full of love. She's fine. That girl used less of it, so it was just a simple allergic reaction. She's been moved to a regular room. But you scared your mom half to death. The hospital lab results came back before we woke up. It was acute pneumonia and an allergic reaction caused by the cheap nail polish Diane had used on us. If the RA hadn't called 911 in time, Mia and I would probably be meeting our maker. While Mia and I were fighting for our lives in the hospital, the culprit was back at school, spouting nonsense about how we deserved it. Going to the hospital for a simple allergic reaction was just a waste of money, she said. She seemed to have no idea what was about to happen to her. Just as I'd asked before I passed out, Grace managed to sneak the bottles of nail polish Diane had used on us. The production date on the bottles was blurry, and there was no expiration date. They were completely unregulated products. Diane used unregulated products on us. This was intentional assault. Then Grace played me a recording. I had specifically asked Grace to keep a close eye on Diane's words and actions for the next couple of days. Sure enough, early that morning, Grace had overheard and recorded a phone call Diane made in the bathroom. Mom, Dad, don't worry. I've already tested the glue you guys made on Chloe. That's right. It's her own fault for not continuing to sponsor me, leaving our whole family unable to afford food. If something happens, she deserves it. If nothing happens, it means our glue is good, and we can mass produce it later. That'll cut our costs by a huge amount. Yeah, Dad, don't worry. Even without her sponsorship money, I can pay off your debts with the money I make from doing nails. We have a deal. I'll pay off your debts, but you have to stay out of trouble. If you mess up my graduation and my chance to get a government job, I'll take you down with me. I know. These city people are so delicate. And not only that, they're so wasteful. It's only in the 80s and they need the AC on, not at all like the simple life back home. But I should really thank them for being so delicate. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had an excuse to make up with them and get them to test it. The recording ended. Hearing the truth, I felt like I had been struck by lightning. Or rather, I had seriously underestimated the depths of a person's paranoia and evil. So, all these years, my money had been used to pay off her father's debts. So Mia and I were just guinea pigs for Diane's twisted experiments. So even her offering to split the utility bills was part of her calculation. She trampled on our lives. Also, she could secure her own future with a government job. Her version of frugal was saving her own skin at everyone else's expense. The rage inside me peaked. My body trembled with anger, and the foresight on my hand started to bleed back into the tube, my hand turning a swollen purplish blue. When Diane was arrested, she was completely bewildered. She was in her pajamas, her hair a mess, with sleep in her eyes and dried drool on her face. When the police asked her if she had intentionally assaulted anyone, she blinked her big eyes innocently. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. If someone is accusing me of assault, they're definitely trying to frame me. She pointed past the police officer at me and Mia. She put on a deeply wronged expression. Officer, we don't get along. They're framing me. Unfortunately for her, with irrefutable evidence, all her arguments were useless. I calmly presented the proof. This included the evidence my dad's lawyer had gathered from her hometown about the unregulated glue factory, her recorded phone call, and the lab reports comparing the samples to the substances that poisoned us. Looking at the mountain of evidence, Diane's eyes darted around in a panic. I just let them try a new product. I didn't know where it came from. I'm a victim too. The police officer had heard enough. That's enough, young lady. The recording proves everything. The recording is fake. I laughed, exasperated. Then let's have the forensic audio experts at the police department analyze it. This is going to be a criminal case anyway. Hearing the word criminal, Diane finally started to get scared. A nearby officer took the opportunity to explain the law. If the perpetrator, with the intent to cause harm, uses a substandard chemical that induces an allergic reaction leading to hospitalization, resulting in serious injury or severe consequences such as shock or organ damage, they can be sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. Diane's face went white with fear. She was like a hen with its neck wrung, shaking uncontrollably. Only then did she realize just how much trouble she was in. She started gasping for air, and even fell to her knees, begging me for mercy. Chloe, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was my fault. I shouldn't have schemed against you. You're a bigger person than me. Please forgive me. We've known each other since freshman year of high school. If you press charges, you'll ruin my future. Won't you feel guilty? Diane howled, a complete mess. I just found it laughable. Guilty? You should be saying that to yourself. If Mia and I hadn't been saved in time, would you have felt guilty? On the day of the trial, Mia and I attended as the plaintiffs. All the evidence pointed to Diane. She had no defense. The judge sentenced her on the spot to 2.5 years for intentional assault. Her parents each received 2 years. When the judge finished speaking, the light in Diane's eyes completely went out. It wasn't until the end of the hearing, when the bailiff snapped the cold handcuffs on her wrists, that she let out a piercing scream. Then she turned and shrieked at Mia and me. Why? Why were you born with a silver spoon in your mouth, while I have to crawl my way through the mud just to survive? Have any of you lived my life? I had to work since I was a kid, scraped together my tuition by working part-time jobs during breaks, and barely clawed my way into college just by waking up before dawn and studying late into the night. All I wanted was a better life. Was I wrong? Take away your fancy families and your ready-made resources, and how are you any better than me? I gambled half my life trying to change my fate, and in the end, I can't even find a stable foothold in this city. Why? Diane asked why. But that's a question I can't answer for her. There's no absolute fairness in this world. Some people don't have to suffer through life's hardships, but they're always haunted by other anxieties. Different pursuits lead to different troubles. Instead of complaining about the unfairness of your lot in life, it's better to discover what makes you shine.